The United States launched an airstrike on an armaments depot in eastern Syria utilized by militias with Iranian support. This action was taken in response to an escalating series of assaults on bases accommodating U.S. military personnel in the region over the preceding weeks. During the strike, 2 U.S. F-15 fighter jets released numerous bombs on a munitions storage site close to Masalan in Deir el-Zur, identified as a facility employed by Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin expressed, "The safety of U.S. personnel is the President's utmost priority, and today's directive underscores the commitment of the United States to protect itself, its personnel, and its interests." The airstrike was designed to disrupt and diminish the capabilities of entities directly accountable for assaulting U.S. forces in the region. This was achieved by specifically targeting facilities linked to the Revolutionary Guard. The precision of the strike was intentional and crafted with the goal of avoiding an escalation of the conflict in the region. According to the military sources, a deconfliction phone line connecting U.S. military personnel to Russian forces in Syria was employed to communicate the details of the attack and ensure coordination. Less than 2 weeks after the first instance, the United States has again targeted facilities utilized by militant groups, several of which operate under the umbrella of the Islamic resistance in Iraq. U.S. officials assert that these groups have been responsible for at least 40 attacks since October 17. On that day, a Gaza hospital was shaken by a powerful explosion, resulting in the tragic loss of hundreds of lives and sparking protests in numerous Muslim nations. The Israeli military, in response to the devastating Hamas incursion in southern Israel on October 7, has launched attacks on Gaza. The most recent U.S. strike was strategically aimed at dismantling supplies, weapons, and ammunition, intending to undermine the capabilities of Iranian-backed militants to target Americans stationed in Iraq and Syria. This action underscores the Biden administration's commitment to maintaining a delicate balance. The U.S. aims to robustly counter Iranian-backed groups suspected of threatening American interests to deter future aggression, potentially influenced by Israel's conflict with Hamas. To mitigate the risk of causing harm to Iraqis or provoking displeasure from Iraq's leadership, the United States has frequently refrained from conducting airstrikes on sites within Iraq. Although officials have asserted that the airstrikes are intended to deter subsequent attacks, they have not achieved this outcome. Almost on a daily basis, there have been rocket and drone attacks, albeit with minimal damage and few injuries in nearly all instances. When questioned about this, the officials conceded that the initial U.S. strike in October did not persuade Iran to instruct its proxies to cease the attacks. However, the officials emphasized that the strikes demonstrate America's readiness to employ military force. As per the Pentagon's report, a cumulative count of 45 personnel sustained injuries, all occurring during attacks on October 17 and 18. Out of these, 32 individuals were at the Al-Tanf garrison in southeastern Syria, experiencing a combination of minor injuries and traumatic brain injuries. Additionally, 13 injuries were recorded at the Al-Assad Air Base in western Iraq, comprising 4 cases of traumatic brain injury and 9 of minor injury. 1 person incurred injuries at Erbil Air Base in Iraq. Simultaneously, the U.S. has deployed additional air defense systems and other forces to bolster the safeguarding of U.S. personnel in the region. These systems have successfully intercepted incoming strikes on multiple occasions. According to the U.S. officials, the Middle East has seen an increase of more than double in the number of ships, a nearly tripled deployment of Patriot air defense missile systems, the addition of a few more fighter jet squadrons, and the deployment of hundreds of additional troops. On the other side, Yemen's Houthi rebels and U.S. officials have confirmed that a U.S. military drone was downed by Houthi forces. According to the U.S. official, the MQ-9 drone was shot down off the Yemeni coast by Houthi forces. This incident occurs while Washington remains vigilant for activities by Iran-backed groups in the Middle East, particularly as its ally Israel engages in conflict with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. In a recent event, a U.S. Navy warship intercepted cruise missiles and several drones launched by the Houthis from Yemen towards Israel. As part of the U.S. deployment, troops have been stationed aboard military vessels in the Red Sea, situated between Yemen and Israel. The Yemeni Houthi rebels, supported by Iran, have been engaged in an extended civil war with Yemen's official government backed by Saudi Arabia since 2014. The deputy leader of Lebanon's Hezbollah, another Iran-backed group in the region, has expressed concern that Israel's actions, specifically the killing of civilians in Gaza, could escalate tensions and potentially lead to a broader conflict in the Middle East. Sheikh Naim Qassem said that very serious and very dangerous developments could occur in the region, and no one would be able to stop the repercussions. What is the link between Iran and Hamas? Hamas, a Sunni Islamist movement, operates as an autonomous Palestinian entity with both military and political wings. Since 2007, Hamas has governed over more than 2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Notably, Gaza has not conducted elections since Hamas assumed control in that same year, displacing the Palestinian Authority which administers the West Bank. Hamas receives financial support and weapons from Iran. However, the two entities have experienced disagreements, particularly over Syria's civil war. Tensions escalated when Hamas sided with protesters against Syrian leader Bashar Assad, a position contrary to Tehran's support for Assad. Consequently, Iran withdrew its funding from Hamas. Additionally, Hamas has other supporters, including Turkey. Yes, Hamas is often considered part of the Axis of Resistance, a loosely connected network of various forces in the region, with varying degrees of support from Iran. The term Axis of Resistance is thought to have originated in response to President George W. Bush's use of the term Axis of Evil during his 2002 State of the Union address, where he referred to Iran, Iraq, and North Korea. There are conflicting reports about who first introduced the term, but it is frequently employed by Iranian officials. The Axis of Resistance is an informal and loosely connected alliance that encompasses both Sunni and Shia Muslim groups and governments in Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, and Iraq. Despite shared elements of resistance, there are differences and varying degrees of proximity among these entities in relation to one another and to Tehran. The Iranian regime, along with its Quds Force, a subset of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, has expanded this network primarily on the grounds of a shared resistance to Western powers and Israel. The Axis comprises the Lebanese militant group and Shia political party Hezbollah, as well as the Syrian regime and Shia militias in Syria that Tehran has cultivated and trained. Each group within the Axis has a distinct relationship with Iran, and they also exhibit differences among themselves. In Gaza, both Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad are considered part of the alliance. However, unlike Hamas, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad primarily relies on funding from the Islamic Republic.